On this edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling, myself and Justin Lowery will talk about Money in the Bank, the bombshell announcement by Becky Lynch the following night, as well as AEW and NXT both struggling in the ratings. That's all to come on this edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. Hey there, back again for another edition. I am your host, Sean Meyers. Back in the co-pilot chair is one Justin Lowery, donning the blue glasses that we all love so much. Justin, welcome back to the show, and we're on the heels of what is really considered now one of the major WWE pay-per-views in Money in the Bank. Want to talk about that because that was certainly unique. But before we get into that, I actually kind of want to work backwards chronologically. Monday night, the show kicks off, and there had already been rumors circulating, and you had heard about those, that there was going to be a major announcement, and it came out that it was going to involve Becky Lynch. Speculation, it took about 10 minutes of the show to confirm what some people had suggested. She is pregnant. She is not going to be competing. She relinquished her title, and it looks like probably at least for a year she will not be on. So first off, this is awesome for her on a personal level. It's pretty unique from a professional level. I remember, of course, Karma, Awesome Kong, right when she was about to start getting a massive push. She had only been in WWE for a couple of months. She got pregnant. That basically ended her career in that company. We've also seen it with Maurice and Maria Kanellis, but they really were valets kind of on the side. This really has no precedent in WWE, at least recently. So one, your reaction when you heard the news confirmed, and two, what does this mean for the future?
Hey, happy for her. She seemed generally excited about it. Best of luck to her. What it means for the company, the girls need to step up. In my mind, without question, she was the biggest female star, but she's probably the biggest overall star that the company has, men or women. So
and that includes Roman, I'm assuming.
Yes.
You're talking.
This has to be a blow for the company, especially at a time when they're struggling. Like you say, she'll be out at least a year. Absolutely.
What do you think the time frame is?
Well, here's the thing. It's hard to judge because people are just assuming she's going to come back. Is she going to come back? Once she becomes a mother, your life changes. It becomes about that child. She might not want to come back for a while. It all depends what she wants. Do I think at some point she's going to wrestle again? I would assume so. It could be 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Nobody knows.
Well, let's kind of think of some scenarios here. There's a few moms currently on the roster. Mickie James, who really hasn't been seen for a while, but she's wrestled for many years as a mom. And, of course, they've talked all about Lacey Evans and her, 6-year-old. So that was before she started in WWE, but she wrestles and is able to do that. And I think when she started in NXT, the kid was pretty young, maybe 3 or 4, something like that. So
I was going to say, with NXT, she was probably living in, Orlando with her child right there,
right,
not on the road. Mickie James, most of the time with that child, she was in TNA working 1 day a week. I don't ever think Becky Lynch is going on a full-time schedule again. Those days are done. If she comes back,
especially
it will be
knowing who the dad is.
Right.
That being Seth Rollins.
Right. It will be for a one-off match, or she'll work like a Brock Lesnar schedule. She'll get the superstar treatment where she works 4 or 5 times a year. That's what I envision at best for her.
And let's keep in mind, Ronda Rousey left really with the idea of starting a family. As far as I know, she hasn't accomplished that yet, right?
Right. Speaking from experience, sometimes things take a little longer in that regards than you plan.
It's just over a year with her at this point now since she last stepped in a ring.
Yes.
So if she were to get pregnant, which again I think is the goal, you're looking at she won't be back until probably well into 2021, maybe 2022. So you're probably looking at two of the biggest names out of two of the three biggest names that this company has really ever had with women. I think you throw Charlotte in there.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it too, depending, okay, you have 9 months carrying the child. Then you give birth, you need time to recover. But also, are they going to be breastfeeding the baby? I mean, things like this will play factors.
I certainly hope Seth isn't. I mean, Becky probably could be okay doing it, but
yeah. That's there's a lot of things that are going to go into decisions like that when she wants to come back. It's going to be interesting. It's an opportunity for these females to step up because now they're really going to push. Well, I don't know how much more they can push Charlotte, but they're really going to.
I think having an adverse effect on her.
Well, she like we said this many times. I think starting over a year ago, she is the Roman Reigns of the women's division of a couple years ago, where they just keep pushing her. The saddest part about now Becky being gone is that we never got Becky and Ronda in a one-on-one match. That's the money match that
Which
never.
Really, I think they should have had.
Oh, we should have. And Vince has had to throw Charlotte in there for no reason. That wasn't needed, not that rehash that, but that out of all this is the disappointment. It's like not having Flair Hogan at WrestleMania for me. Like, if they missed a boat on this and we never get this match, that's just sad. That's one woman's match that needed to happen. That's one match period that needed to happen. And hopefully down the line it can, but it would really suck if WWE dropped the ball and never has a chance to make up for it.
So you mentioned other women have to step up. It kind of takes us to what happened the night before at Money in the Bank. And we'll get into the match momentarily. But Asuka wins. Pretty surprising for me. I saw some people say, oh, it makes sense. I really didn't see that coming. But she becomes the champion as a result of getting this. It makes sense, right? I mean,
Well, I think it makes sense knowing what we know now. Originally, I thought Shayna Baszler would get it so she can then continue her feud with Becky. Well, now, obviously, since they knew Becky was going to be leaving, they didn't want to put the title on her. So Asuka seems like the most logical choice there. Plus, she has been killing it the last couple months.
When do you think that the company found out?
Well, what did they tape the TLC matches? What, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
Keep in mind that even WrestleMania was like 2 or 3 weeks before it happened. So that was late March. And I don't think we've seen Becky wrestle since then, right?
No, WrestleMania, I think, was the last time. So clearly.
So she wrestled in late March and never since.
Right. So I'm going to assume maybe early April, something soon after WrestleMania, she found out she was pregnant, told them, and they made a decision to keep her off TV and clearly make this ladder match for the title. So they knew, at some point early April, clearly before they filmed this, because, and I even read I think yesterday, the original plan was for Baszler to win.
I thought she was one of two real candidates, and I thought Nia was probably my pick.
Well, I read that Nia actually was supposed to face Becky Lynch at Money in the Bank for the title, so she would have been in a championship match, not the ladder match.
I don't like either of those scenarios. So in a sense, and I think Shayna's good. I just don't personally like her. I don't think Nia's good at all, but she continues to get this massive push, and I would think one of those two, if not maybe both of them, are the ones in line to challenge Asuka. I want to stay on Asuka because when you run down her accolades, it's Charlotte Flair caliber in terms of she's won every title, she's won Money in the Bank, she's won Royal Rumble. But I would say her booking on the main roster has been inconsistent. She's had a couple of good runs, but nothing sustained, and a lot of really down moments that she was better than. How do you evaluate her and what we might see from her going forward? Will the company ever truly get behind her as a true superstar?
Well, it's, I think, now or never. I mean, you're right. If you look on paper, she's won everything she could win. every women's title, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Tag Championship, Money in the Bank, and Royal Rumble. There's nothing left for her to actually accomplish. So on paper, you look like, oh, she's been given everything. But yet, it feels like they've dropped the ball with her. So it is a little strange. It's her time to shine.
She hasn't had a memorable title reign on the main roster, though, right?
No. Well, no, but I mean, here's our time to shine. Shine. I think she's very entertaining now. She's more entertaining. Where maybe a year or two ago, good matches, but what was her character? She was just somebody put on good matches, and we all know Vince likes characters. Now,
but I thought she had one in NXT that was like, she had the nickname and the face paint and everything, which is, I think, what he kind of digs. But she was just this dominant force that just like had no fear, was sort of a heel / face. Like she just was steady and just wanted to kick everyone's head off. So I thought she already had that built in, and then they kind of got away from that when she started losing. And
right. And she just became a, solid wrestler, but no character arc. Now, I mean, she's entertaining. I mean, goofy, silly in a way, but she's completely entertaining with it. Like, even when she, realized she was a champion, apparently she had no idea. Like, that was complete surprise. They didn't tell her beforehand.
Wait, go back. What was she not told of?
That she was going to be the champion, and Becky was pregnant.
You know what? I saw so many people saying, what a true reaction, emotional reaction from Asuka, who I guess is also a mom. Is that correct?
I have no idea. Is she? I have no idea.
I saw someone say that. I never heard that, but she's kind of, I don't know, a little bit more private than some. But I don't believe that. I think that they would have to tell her, hey, you're going out there. Here's what you're going to do. I don't see how they could have said you're not getting the title and Becky is... I think that she had to have been tipped off. Even if it was hey, go out there, Becky's going to present you the title, and then she makes an announcement. Maybe they didn't say she's pregnant, but to me, I don't see how you could be in a segment and not being told something like that.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it was taped, so if they didn't maybe like the reaction, they could have redid it.
That kind of defeats the whole purpose of Becky getting so emotional, which it very well could have been legit, but to me, I think they sort of overdid it. I know you didn't watch all of Raw. They probably replayed that, her punchline, if you will, saying I'm going to be a mom now. They probably played that 10 times between that night and tonight on SmackDown, to the point where it's just it's almost exploiting it as if it's like a retirement type of thing, Well,
actually, I actually have a problem with the announcement. Honestly, I mean, we're talking about all this. I think Asuka kind of took away from it. I think Becky deserved that moment to just make that announcement alone in the ring, not with Asuka present. I think
right. She still could have said I have the briefcase, and after I leave, Asuka's going to come be the champion, or even if they had maybe had her make the announcement and hand it to her backstage.
Right. When Roman came out, talk about his cancer by himself, Daniel Bryan by himself, Edge by himself. Becky deserved that moment by herself. I did not because I think it took away from that announcement a little bit.
Do you think it was over dramatized, or do you think that was 100% legit emotion from her?
Well, I would say it was legit. She's probably a little torn. She's probably excited that she gets to be a mother, and she said she always wanted to be, but at the same time, she's peaking her career, and she can't have both.
Right.
Unfortunately,
and some people like Jim Cornette have ripped into her for not putting her career first, which is
but it depends on what's more important to you. And I mean, I don't know. I'm just assuming that it wasn't planned. I don't think her and Seth decided hey, this is a time to try to get pregnant.
Although think about it, man, she just wrestled at WrestleMania. She defended her title. She had her for one full year, and it was sort of where does she go next? If you were to plan it, that would be a pretty good way for her.
I would think if they were planning, though, she would drop it first. I don't think.
Okay, I can buy that.
I think there's respect enough, that hey, guys, I want to step away, try to start a family. We're getting married. I think it's time for me to drop the title and go out that way. Then, surprise.
Right. I mean, I get that part of it. So anyway, Asuka gets it as a result of her winning Money in the Bank. So let's go to that match, because I don't think that there had been a more anticipated match just to see how it turned out in a long time, because it was a complete wild card. It was interesting. So to me, it was kind of a failed comedy match, which I don't mind comedy matches, but when it's supposed to be the main event and it's crowning basically, in a sense, two new champions or future champions, I would have rather played it a lot differently than how it was. And like, some stuff was funny. I thought it was a little bit overboard most of the time. It made people look very, very, very stupid. Your reaction seeing this first time ever in the corporate towers, the matches converged as one with constant comedy skits and celebrity appearances, and then a bizarre ending really for both titles, or both briefcases.
All right. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. I was a little disappointed. Definitely not as good as what the cinema matches we saw from WrestleMania. I didn't really care that both were going on at the same time. I think you could have done them separately. I thought the camera work was a little shaky for my taste, my liking. I was getting a little bit of a headache watching the camera. I expected cameos. I thought they were all, honestly, pretty lame.
Vince's was okay, right?
Vince was okay, but like Doink the Clown was the worst.
I didn't understand that. That looked nothing like him.
First off, it looked like Dr. Shelby playing Doink the Clown.
So literally, I was like thinking it's going to be Doink, and then like when the face came up, it didn't look like Doink, and I'm like, is it just like a creepy clown? What? I'm not getting what this is.
Right, that was stupid. The brother love thing didn't do anything for me. I didn't get that.
They were probably just dying to have him back as brother love now that he's back with the company.
And then Ray kind of like, hey, and stop. I don't know. And then
it made like everyone really look stupid if you want to.
John Lawrence, like, that was like, okay. And then the food fight with Paul Heyman. I mean, it was kind of like, ha, ha, ha. But like, it was weird. It was forced. The only one that wasn't semi-forced was Vince, because he could be in his office, and, they put the chairs back. That was kind of like a ha-ha moment. The Stephanie was hilarious to me because, first off, it made Dana Brooke look real stupid.
Which, let's be honest, that's sort of her MO.
Right, but she thought she won Money in the Bank because she knew she had to climb on the roof. And then clearly Stephanie was not there. Like, she was, like, they cut to her, like, just in front of a white wall. Like, she filmed this in her basement. And they like edited it in. I thought. See, I didn't
notice that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have all those people there simultaneously.
Right.
Necessarily.
To me, it just seemed like a bad edit. And another thing I didn't really understand at the end, when Corbin and Asuka were both on the ladder, why did like Asuka feel the need to push him? Like, there was no need. They each could go grab a briefcase, end a match. Like, there was no need for them to fight over the ladder spot. Like that. That was weird. Like, I didn't
each other in a sense.
Right. Yeah, it was weird to me.
Well, the other thing is, 3 women disappeared. They didn't make it to the top. And where the heck did Shayna Baszler go?
I don't know.
Because Dana Brooke wiped out on the wet floor, right?
Yes.
Someone else got powerbombed through a table. Was that Carmella?
I believe so.
Where did Shayna Baszler go? The person who probably was the favorite or one of the favorites going in.
Maybe she got stuck in an elevator? I don't know.
By the way, Asuka uses the elevator. I believe, if I'm correct, there was 3 elevators there, and the women didn't use the other ones. They... Why would you also not just take the elevator to the roof?
There's a lot of things that didn't make sense. I don't know. I mean,
did you hear the explanation as to how Mysterio and Aleister Black didn't die?
There was a second roof.
Does that make sense?
No, not at all. And okay, even if there was another landing that they landed on, the fact that they wrestled the next night with no apparent injuries, storytelling, just a little bit of storytelling, guys. Like, at least keep them off for a week, right? Sell some injuries.
Could you imagine how ridiculous it was for Elias to have to fly to Stamford, Connecticut to be on for 4 seconds and not even get like a close up after he hits the guitar shot on Corbin?
Well, he was on so quick, and the camera was so far away. The announcers had to be like, "Oh, that was Elias," like just to make sure.
Like you would not have really even known unless you were like paying attention and expecting him to do that. It was like, right. How did they miss that?
Never saw his face. He just came from the corner of the TV. He hit him with the guitar, and then he was gone. He left the picture. They didn't put the camera back on him. Ringside, nothing. It was just like he just didn't exist anymore.
Did you see Nia Jax actually botched a move, and a lot of people are like, how did they not refilm that? She was doing like the gorilla press on Lacey, and it was just awful. And it's like, that's Nia Jax, right? even when they tape it, she botches a move.
Hey, who knows? Maybe that was the best one they had.
Hopefully that's the last time that they do something like that. Now, again, it's different. So, like, okay, people are tuning in to see how it turns out. I don't think if they advertised that they would do that again, that people would be clamoring to see it. But nonetheless, I thought there was some really good stuff and some interesting stuff that was the more traditional part of Money in the Bank. I will say this. I thought that Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins would probably have what would be considered the company's match of the year if it was in front of fans. Their title match was spectacular. I think it's been the best match since they've gone empty arena.
Yeah, it was solid. I thought it was Drew's best showing since he's become champion. Very short showing, but nonetheless, it was good to see. It was a nice highlight, of the night for me. The rest of the traditional matches were decent, but just there. Nothing really stood out for me as amazing or anything like that, but they had a very solid match.
You mean Bobby Lashley and R-Truth wasn't amazing to you?
No, not at all.
McIntyre has answered the bell.
So far, I mean, short sample size, and the hard part is we don't know really how over he is as champion because there's no crowd.
I agree. I think he was super over going into WrestleMania, but that wanes. Remember, Kofi Kingston, by the time that about SummerSlam rolled around, he
lost his steam.
Yeah, and like they had actually booked him, I thought, decently. They didn't make him look ridiculous. He was still doing some of the shtick, but being a little more serious. He was having good matches. Fans just get really bored unless it's like an all-time great. And I wonder if that would have happened with McIntyre by, SummerSlam or maybe by October, but I think this will help when the fans do come back, if it is in the fall, because this will be the first time that they really see him as the champion if he still carries it, which I think, especially with the roster they have now, he probably will.
Yeah, I mean, who else right now? I mean, Seth has failed. I think right now, just go with him, roll with him, especially until you get fans back, and go from there and kind of gauge
Brock
his
Lesnar
reaction.
beat him, and then because that's what they do.
Well, yeah,
year, right?
He'll probably keep it maybe till normally maybe SummerSlam, and they would bring Lesnar back. But maybe right now, if you can't get fans for SummerSlam, maybe Survivor Series and bring Lesnar back. We need, as long as Lesnar's champion by WrestleMania.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt wrestled as Bray Wyatt, and I know you said like it doesn't really matter to you. To me, I think this is how you don't ruin him when he has to lose. And I think that you didn't want him beating Braun in Braun's first title defense, even though we all know Braun wasn't supposed to be the guy being champion. There's a lot of issues with Goldberg. Never should have beat Bray Wyatt. He beat The Fiend. But I think the way they did this, they allowed this storyline to continue and still say there's a lot more from Bray to come. Now, if he loses as The Fiend to Strowman, different story, but I think that he's okay. Were you all right with that booking? And is it kind of cheating the fans in a sense by having him just be the regular guy in the sweater?
I'm not okay with that booking at all. They're ruining Bray Wyatt again, The Fiend, whatever you want to call him.
Well, do you see it like a Finn Balor versus the Demon, where it's
Finn can
lose, but the Demon doesn't lose.
Right, but look what it did to Finn. I mean, he took losses all the time without being the Demon, and he became just another generic, mid-card guy. This is what they do. They bring Bray back. They make him strong. They make him cool, and then he loses a couple, and then it's just gone. If you don't want him to be champion, that's fine. I don't think he needs the belt personally. But then don't have him face Braun Strowman for the title. You book yourself into a corner. There's no reason for it. He didn't actually need to face Seth for a title months ago. He didn't need the title.
I think he probably should have started challenging for the title at WrestleMania or maybe just before it.
Right.
They had him do it back in like September. But let me give you this scenario. Is Backlash the next pay-per-view?
I believe so, yes.
If they run it back and The Fiend wins the title from Strowman, it sucks for Strowman, but would you feel like Wyatt's going to be okay then once he's the champion again? Because that's really what should have been the case all along until Goldberg ruined that.
He loses some of that luster. And honestly, with his character is a character kind of like the Undertaker. You don't need the championship. Like, I don't look at him that he needs to hold the belt to be a top guy. He can sell you tickets, sell you merch without the belt. He's somebody, character-wise, it's not needed. And when you put him in the title pictures, you book yourself into corners because you don't want to give him the belt, so you have to find weird ways for him to lose. I don't like it. I don't like how they're using him. I don't like how they're booking him. And I mean, his win over Cena at WrestleMania was even a little weak because of the circumstances. I don't think the last couple months have really helped him.
Anything else stand out either from Money in the Bank or from Monday Night Raw before we move on to the Wednesday night battle?
Yeah, real quick, the only thing is I'm a little confused where they're going with Seth Rollins. I mean, they don't mention on TV that he's the dad.
Well, Ray did.
Right, okay.
But it was sort of
announcers,
like,
hold on.
And like, I actually thought that was cool because like someone had to acknowledge it.
Right, but this is what I don't get. Congrats for being a dad, and he's looking like he's dazed. Like, to me, it's coming off like this is the worst news ever of his life. So I'm very confused.
How would you book it?
Yeah, I mean, you had to mention it because everybody and their mother knows that they're a couple, that they're engaged, and he's the dad.
Thank God they're actually not going to do like a "Who's the Dad" storyline.
Well, no. Honestly, I don't think like Ray had to address that to him. The announcers could have just, when he came out, we want to congratulate Seth Rollins too for becoming a father. Acknowledge it on TV and then let whatever storyline you got going play out. Acknowledge it to the audience so we're not, they're not playing us as dumb. But there was no reason, because then it's making Rollins look like he doesn't want to.
And he brutally attacked Mysterio after Ray had wished him well, basically.
Yeah, it's weird. Just weird.
Wednesday night, NXT, AEW. I will tell you, when I had Sean Benjamin on last week, we talked about how AEW was big because it was coming back live. NXT really stacked its card. If you remember, they had their world title match. They had their women's title match. They had the debut of Karrion Kross. They made it seem like a massive show, and neither were great in the ratings. NXT did not book this show like it was a massive show. They were like, all right, we're going to put freaking Timothy Thatcher in the two big segments, and that guy just, to me, is like not a main eventer. Certainly not yet. No one even knows who he really is. They just did their cruiserweight, so it was not a show booked to be like a very special NXT, and the ratings reflected that. AEW, however, Justin, also had its lowest ratings. How did you evaluate the head-to-head on Wednesday night? And is it more concerning for AEW than NXT?
I guess it's more concerning for AEW for the fact that they're just a new promotion, and you don't want to get too deep into the hole. That's what sucks.
NXT, in theory, could go back to being on the network, right?
Right, and they're still backed by the WWE, who has a lot more money. AEW, I thought, was a very good show. It got good. Most of the comments I've seen from people agree. It was a very good show. There's a couple things that were a little weird to me, like all shows. It wasn't a perfect show, but I thought it was pretty good. I think AEW has been very entertaining. I thought they've handled this crisis better than the WWE has, and I think most wrestling people have agreed.
Because it doesn't feel as awkward of a show, right?
No, because they pretty much, like, this is what it is. Like, they kind of acknowledge, like, this is what, we're acknowledging the time that we're in.
And they got pretty much everyone back, right? Because you had said before a lot of the guys were not on TV for a while.
There's still a couple guys like, Hangman Page still hasn't appeared.
Do you know why? What the reason is?
I guess it's his own choice. The Young Bucks have not appeared yet, but I know the one just had a child maybe like a month ago.
And they did like an injury angle?
Yeah, to write him off so he can stay at home. So they've been off.
But you said Scorpio Sky, he came back, right?
Yeah, So some of these guys just came back like last week for the first time. I like how they have the wrestlers at ringside. They provide a little bit of noise, and also you have different stories throughout the match. I think they're doing a pretty damn good job, honestly, with everything. It's definitely entertaining for sure. I hope the ratings do rebound.
What about the drone, Justin? The drone got destroyed.
It did. Matt Hardy was devastated. Just absolutely devastated. Heartbroken.
How's Matt Hardy like? I know that he's kind of done like a lot of his different characters.
Yeah.
Has he been as good for AEW as you thought?
He provides what I think AEW needs. I'm not a Matt Hardy fan per se. I think his best days are long behind. I think his character, I enjoy the broken Matt Hardy.
See, I had heard so much about it when he came to WWE, and obviously he didn't use it at first for, I guess, a few reasons.
Vince killed it.
But listen, I sort of agree. But they let him do a lot of the same stuff, and they had the cinematic match with him. It just seemed like it was something that was not going to last for 3 years.
Well,
right? I mean, they had signed him for 3 years. Do you think that would have maintained its popularity for that long?
It could have. Vince didn't give it the time or the push it needed. Vince needed to back it, and he really never liked it. I think Hardy even said Vince never really understood the character, and he only did it just to do it. So creatively, he didn't have the backing for it. Now, I do think this character provides more to the hardcore fan, like the NXT crowd, the AEW crowd, than maybe it does the more casual fan that might tune in. I mean, right now, I think all hardcore fans are the only ones really watching these shows now anyway.
All 600,000 of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. AEW's been on a roller coaster. They're next week, I wouldn't be surprising if they had 150,000. And then the following week, they dropped 90. It seems to be, and I don't know why. It's not like there's sports going up against it.
So I was shocked to see, I went on ESPN Wednesday night, and I guess they had some MMA fights.
Oh, okay.
Now, I don't know how, I think that might have been on ESPN Plus. I don't know how readily available that was, but I was surprised to find out that on Wednesday there was some competition where maybe there's a little bit of overlap between the fans. A little bit,
all right, maybe. That could be true. I mean, and then I guess the big news out of Dynamite is that Mike Tyson will appear at the pay-per-view, and good for them. That's a big mainstream star to get. I mean, I'm sure Vince
is in the Hall of Fame of WWE, I believe. Is that correct?
I believe, yes, and a Hall of Fame boxer, and still pretty much in the mainstream. Right. I mean, Mike Tyson's putting videos on Twitter and the internet right now.
He's one of those guys that I think he maintained his popularity, or at least his name, well after his career ended. Kind of like Ric Flair, yes. Honestly. I've always held the idea that within the last 5 years, Ric Flair's been more well-known than during his career because rappers and athletes emulate him because they grew up on him,
Yeah, and I mean, Mike Tyson did the Hangover movies, and that got a good laugh, and he's a character. He became kind of funny. I mean, he has
was at the pinnacle of the height of WWE shifting to the Attitude Era with Stone Cold.
Yes, I mean, we all remember the WrestleMania match with Shawn and Austin.
He did the weird chops.
Right. I mean, he played a big part. But I'm interested. I don't think I think he's going to do more than just hand the title. I don't think they're bringing him in just so he can award a title.
He'll take out HBK again.
Right. Who's he going to punch? Is he going to work an angle with somebody? So I mean, good for them. They'll give him some mainstream appeal. The little promotion out of it. Maybe ESPN, will mention something about Mike Tyson appearing, and good for AEW. I mean, might get a couple more eyeballs on their product.
So Friday Night SmackDown just wrapped up, and I had asked you actually a couple weeks ago, do you think Otis is a main eventer? Well, Vince McMahon does, apparently. He's the Money in the Bank briefcase holder. I would have said anyone would have been more likely than Otis going into that match. I think they did a little bit for the surprise aspect, but Otis wins it. So now he's sort of like, okay, is he going to cash in on Braun? They're going to sort of do that for a while. He's getting a massive push, obviously. But the big takeaway for SmackDown was, one, Charlotte was there. Come on, right? I mean, like, she's already on Raw and NXT. Now she's like building this storyline with, she's basically a wedge between Sasha and Bayley, which that's going to happen eventually. But I'm sick of Charlotte Flair. If all these people taking time off, I would love for her to be amongst them, because as great as she is, I just don't want to see her right now. But it's an Intercontinental title tournament, and Justin, the reason behind it is because Sami Zayn exercised his right to stay at home during this time. And while technically he's not being punished per se, he no longer is the champion.
Oh, I think he's being punished.
Yes, and apparently, yes and no. Like, if he comes back and gets his spot, good. If they don't, dock him money unnecessarily for this, then. But like, I understand if he's going to be gone for months, you can't have him as the champion. But it seemed like they didn't wait too long, and they've made exceptions with other guys, certainly.
Well, that's my problem with this. Well, one, I read today that he actually does have heat on him. Vince is pissed, and here's my thing with that is, why can't you just hold a tournament then for the interim?
Which is what they're doing with the cruiserweight.
As they're doing with the cruiserweight title.
I would say that would be more fair, but I think that they maybe care more about the Intercontinental title. They don't want two of them floating around like a fake champion.
Remember WrestleMania 10, Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon ladder match?
Yeah, but I feel like that was done solely because they wanted that storyline to have the titles hanging. This was not like a storyline that they had planned on.
You could run it again. Have your, interim title, and actually you don't even have to mention Sammy, how they can't mention Roman, okay?
That's dumb to me. Don't pretend people that are main cogs of your company.
This guy walks around, he's champion. Whether it's a month from now, 2 months from now, whenever Sammy comes back, he comes out holding the title and goes, I'm the real IC champion. I've never lost it. Blah, blah, blah.
Which is what he's saying on Twitter, sort of in character, but...
And then, too, like, I mean, Brock can't be seen for 60, 90 days.
That's what kills me about... There's
it doesn't
no
make
consistency.
Sense. And then, it just... Guys get suspended, they hold titles.
Andrade did that
Andrade didn't have to get it stripped or dropped or even drop it.
I will say this. They knew it was 30 days. With Sammy, they don't know if it's 2 weeks, 5 months. It's the uncertainty.
If you tell guys it's their choice and they won't be punished, he made the choice. To me, it seems like he's being punished.
What would I guess if you're Vince McMahon, you don't want someone holding a title sitting at home without knowing when they're coming back. I think that's the big issue. Is you don't know if he knew it was 2 months, maybe. But we know he's not probably a huge Sami Zayn fan to begin with.
Right.
But keep in mind they didn't let Roman win the title and then go home.
No. What I would have did was hold a tournament for the interim championship like they're doing for the cruiserweight. And MMA does this, UFC. If a champion gets hurt and can't fight for like a year because they have an injury, they crown a new champion, and then when that guy's ready to come back, they fight to unify.
I would be fine if I would be okay with that, but just make it consistent. You know what I mean?
Right.
Either set a legitimate 30-day defending policy, set a 60-day policy, or do what you said.
And if they're doing with the cruiserweight title, then by not doing it with the IC, it's bogus to me. Like, you've already set the precedent with that. Well, then do it with the IC title. Like, that's why I feel like it's a punishment.
Fair enough. All Anything else that jumps out, Justin? Another episode of Dark Side of the Ring. I'm caught up now. Legion of Doom, LOD, or if you want to call them the Road Warriors. That seemed like it was pretty highly rated, I think, just behind maybe the Benoit ones. So that show's becoming pretty significant for wrestling fans.
Yes. And, LOD, they're pretty well known by everybody, a lot of generations. Another solid episode. I think we pretty much knew about Hulk's issues, and
well, they portrayed it on TV. It wasn't a secret.
Right. I didn't realize how screwed up he was in the SummerSlam match and back in '92.
I'm sure I've seen that match at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
but I was also younger, probably.
Right, so was I. So I didn't realize.
Well, I'll say this though. That very easily could also be like if someone gets concussed. I remember Taz got concussed at WrestleMania, and he was like out on his feet, still wrestling. So you never know with stuff like that. Yeah, and this Tuesday, the big one, Owen Hart. I think that's going to get pretty high. I asked Sean Benjamin, do you think there will be conspiracy type thing, or is it more so just going to focus on how terribly they handled it after it happened? I think it's going to focus more on just a tragic event. I think they'll talk about how there was really no reason for him to even be doing that stunt, and basically kind of shame WWE McMahon's for how they handled it after, and almost blackballing the family, like his wife and everything. Well, I know that she wants nothing to do, and she doesn't want him in the Hall of Fame. But the fact that they continued that show was just the worst decision, arguably, the company's ever made. But I part of me thinks that they might give a little bit of like was it definitely an accident type of thing. I've never heard anything that it hasn't been. I don't think there's a conspiracy like that. I wouldn't believe that. You don't remember at least people talking about that? Keep in mind this was not that long after Brett left the company. No, but I don't. Not like no. I can't. I don't believe that. I agree with you. I'm just saying this seems like the type of thing where they could potentially. We've seen again. They've been very negative towards WWE in this series, and I'm not saying it was out of line. But I told you before, I think it was not consistent with other promotions that they. I'm very interested because she hasn't really talked publicly about this. Which Brett has, I believe, right? Brett's been in the public and said, it was basically, I think, a terrible accident. I'm pretty sure, but he's spoken about this at least. Yeah, but she's clearly holds a lot of resentment for him doing it. He probably didn't need to do it. It's not like wrestling's known for guys flying, from the ceiling. It probably didn't need to be done, but unfortunately, it happened. It was tragic. It sucks. But I'm looking forward to it. I bet you I'll be interested. I bet you it might top Benoit's. I don't know. It's going to be right up there. And I will say that in many regards, for something like that, I don't know how much the wrestling industry has learned. I feel like there's still so many unnecessary things that they do, and WWE has done. You remember in 2000, Shane was just going like 50 feet up multiple times. Now, they had him fall into basically a gigantic air cushion. But what if he slips on his way up? Yeah. And trust me, other companies have done very similar things, as we've seen with scaffold matches and things of that nature. So, interesting for sure. I believe that's the season finale, so we'll have to wait quite some time. But I am completely caught up, and I've enjoyed seeing a lot of behind-the-scenes type look at this stuff. All right, Justin, I appreciate your time as always. Another week gone by. We'll have more content to come each and every week. But in the meantime, you could follow us, 5-Star Pod Wrestle, on Twitter, on Instagram, 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. Most importantly, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give Justin Lowery a follow as well. He could go for some more followers. You up to 1,000? Oh, I'm over 1,000. Mr. Popular right here. He should be the social media guy for the 5-Star. Nonetheless, we'll see you next week. It'll be right here on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling.